Uh, Welcome everybody. This is probably my first video on where I'll be speaking about law. So I thought, why not start uh, with mental health? As you know, mental health is very important topic of today's day. It's a very recurring topic and a topic of great significance right now. Anyways, so what is mental health? Mental health, according to WHO, World Health Organization, is a state of well-being whereby, number one, a person analyzes or realizes his own abilities. Secondly, uh, how much productive he is. Thirdly, how much he can work under normal stressful conditions. And fourthly, how much he can contribute to the society. So this is the mental health definition according to WHO. Obviously, it has other dimensions too, but to just give you a general idea. Now, with the evolution of human nature and the understanding of human psychology, we have progressed a lot, right? And India is progressing too. For example, previously words like lunatics were used, which has been widely condemned and has been eradicated from the provision of several statutory laws. But why is mental health an important topic considering the aspect of law? Firstly, let us end the topic of the psychological aspect of mental health. Firstly, mental health is obviously important because it decides how we act, how we react, how we perceive others' actions or emotions, how we perceive ourselves, and how we take decisions, how much our confidence builds up. So all these factors decide us. We become we only on the basis of our mental health. Now there are majorly three or four categories by which someone's mental health can be affected. Firstly, due to imbalance in the hormones. That is a scientific one. Everything is a scientific one, although. So, imbalance in the hormones. Secondly, due to genetics. Thirdly, due to habits. Okay, habit. We have grown a tendency where we always want to blame someone else for our own downfall, right? But uh, but anyways, uh, but habits also play a crucial part, like how much we sleep, how much, uh, what kind of foods do we eat, okay, how much do we socialize. All this plays a part. So what did I say? Genetics, hormones, habits, and lastly, obviously, the environment. The environment can be anything. It can be a domestic environment. It can be a social gathering where the kind of groups with which we with whom we socialize, and it can be obviously a professional setting as well. Okay, so in a workplace you can also be like you can come with a healthy mind and you can get messed up. Okay, so this is the part of the psychological aspect. Now getting into the legal aspect of it. Why mental health is important? Mental health obviously comes into consideration whereby we decide whether a major, a person who is above 18 years of age, has the capability to take decisions on their own or not. Thereby, we consider the age of the major as above 18, right? Whenever a person is above 18 but lacks the mental capacity, we assign, or the courts, as I know the Indian laws assign them, a legal guardian. So, it is important to remember that anyone who is above 18, in spite of the fact that they might be living under the shelter of their parents, because it's kind of a customary habit which we Indians have grown to. Like many teenagers, teenagers is not the right word. Many people above 18 years of age stays with their parents, right? Even after, even at the age of 40, 50. So it is a customary kind of thing in India. So, but remember, uh, beyond the words of parampara, parampara, anusasan, pratishtha. So, beyond the words of anusasan, parampara, pratishtha, whatsoever they are, it is important to note that above 18 years of age, anyone who has the mental capacity to decide things on their own do not have a legal guardian. They can only the courts or the court of law only assign a legal guardian to someone only when they lack the mental capacity to decide things like in the Indian Contract Act, if I'm not wrong, it is the 1872 Indian Contract Act 1872 clearly states that two parties who want to get into a contract must have the mental capacity. So, in the field of the Indian contract, the mental capacity takes an account. Uh, the Indian criminal law, right now, which is Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, uh, which came into effect after from 2023, if I'm not wrong. Erstwhile Indian Penal Code 1862, if I'm not wrong. So, Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, it speaks about offenses, criminal offenses. So, whenever we have to deduce a crime, we must first establish a mens rea, right? Mens rea or the guilty mind. And as much as I know, there are four elements of mens rea. They are intention, knowledge, and two additional grounds like recklessness and negligence. So, to deduce the mens rea, it is important to understand the mental capacity of the accused. Only after deducing the mens rea of an accused, a punishment whereby an accused could have been convicted or be rewarded, um, like with a death sentence, can be reduced to as low as 7 years of imprisonment. A death sentence can be reduced to as low as 7 years of imprisonment only by deducing the correct form of mens rea. Hereby, mental capacity is important in the criminal law right now, which is the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita as well. So, in the form of contracts, Indian contract law acknowledges mental capacity. The IPC right now, which is BNS, acknowledges mental capacity. Now, talking about crime and talking about people major and minor, we should not also forget about the juveniles, right? So, before the amendment done in the Juvenile Justice Act in 2015, JJ Act 2015, before that, any juvenile, even those who had committed heinous crimes like rape, like murder, even if we consider the case of Nirvaya, the extremely unfortunate case of Nirvaya, which shook the entire nation. In that case, all the convicted persons were awarded death sentences. Only someone who was below 18 years of age was not awarded the same. He only got away with 3 years of imprisonment, or better to call it a correctional home, because that was the only provision available under the laws of those times. But then the pressure groups in India started creating pressure to the legislative body, to the Parliament of India, and they realized that we need to change. And hence, new amendments came into effect, and thereby, if I'm not wrong, Section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act recognizes that someone who is below 18 years of age but above 16 years of age, that means someone within the age bracket of 16 to 18, who are capable enough to understand the gravity of the offense. Obviously, that is to be determined by the JJ board, which would obviously include some renowned or established clinical psychologist, and maybe may also be in presence of the judicial magistrate as well. So that JJ board decides that if the teenager, if the juvenile within the age bracket of 16 to 18 understands the gravity of the offense, if it is proved that the juvenile understands the offense, then that juvenile may be trialed before the adult court. Okay, there's a children court. It is nothing but just the district court only. Whenever a person, a child, quote unquote, a child. Who is a child? Anyone below the age of 18. Whenever a child, and that section also comes within the Juvenile Justice Act only. Anyways, so a child, that is someone who is below 18, and within the age bracket of 16 to 18, commits a crime, is transferred before the Juvenile Justice Board. They conduct an inquiry, and it is proved that yes, the juvenile understands the gravity of the offense, and he obviously had the mental maturity to understand its effect and consequences. Then from the children's court, he may be tried before the adult court and be punished under the same offenses uh, for the crimes committed by any other adult. That is within the ambit of BNS. All right. So, mental health obviously plays an account, and mental maturity, mental capacity plays an account even within the ambit of juvenile justice. Also, let us not forget that although we have sections like Section 15 of the Juvenile Justice Act, Section 18, Clause 3 of the Juvenile Justice Act, which speaks about the transfer from children court to the adult court. In spite of all these things, Juvenile Justice Act uh, is reformative in nature. It tries to give the benefit of doubt. It tries to give relaxation. It tries to give the advantage to this child or to the children only due to the fact that still they are child. They need reformation. So mental capacity plays role even in the juvenile justice. Now, when we talk about mental capacity and someone who might be facing mental disorder, then obviously we need to speak about the Disability Act. Previously, if we speak of someone, if we spoke of someone, sorry, uh, with someone with disability, we would only mean someone with physical disability, right? But right now, after the new changes in the Disability Act, even mental disorders have been included in the Disability Act. That is, someone with specific certain mental disorders can also be included under the Mental Disability Act. So Indian laws are right now recognizing that yes, mental health is important, and mental disorders are not something uh, outside. It's not an alien concept. It is just like any other disabilities. If in the extreme form, obviously, it is to also to be mentioned if in the extreme form, because most of us might be suffering from any uh, mental health issues, like we even someone who seeks acknowledgement, someone who's a perfectionist, someone who does not want to speak about himself or herself to the general audience, that can too be a result of a mental disorder. Someone who tries to keep himself or herself or his or her surroundings extremely clean is also a mental disorder, like OCD, like ADHD. Someone who is extremely has extreme concentration levels is also like ADHD or other things. In fact, ADHD can also have opposite effects too. Anyway, so I just mean to say that it is not confined within the fact that someone who is just having mental disorder, we can just call him a lunatic. Previously, under the Lunatics Act, Indian Lunatics Act, this type of words were used. Then came the Indian Mental Health Act of 1987, if I am not wrong. But even those Lunatics Acts and Indian Mental Health Act 1987, they were not conforming to the ideas enshrined in the UN CRPD, if I'm not wrong. I may be wrong, okay. Indian United Nations Convention of Rights of People with Disabilities. Okay. Uh, so they were not conforming to that UN Convention of Rights of People with Disabilities. But after the changes made in the Indian Mental Health uh, Care Act 2017, it conformed to those qualities, to those ideas. And previously, it was more custodial based. It's changed its stance from custodial based to a rights based one. Previously, someone with a mental health disorder was seen as a threat to the public society. But right now, they we have given them rights. We have given a human approach. We have abolished chaining people. We have termed it, condemned it. We have condemned it to be inhuman. We have condemned and abolished electric shock. Previously, electric shocks were used as a mode of treatment to the mentally ill people, but right now it is not. So, our Indian laws are also changing. It acknowledges mental health as an issue and it is trying to evolve, as a result of which Indian Mental Health Care Act came. It is a right-based one. It gives right to choose advanced directives, like you can choose. You know that you would be going through a treatment, so you can choose beforehand that who is going to take decisions on your behalf, because you know for a certain episode of time you may not be able to think properly or take decisions properly. The courts also give priority to the families or someone it deems fit. You can also choose beforehand someone whom you want. You can also choose the mode of treatment. It is all possible right now due to the fact with the change and the new laws came with the name Indian Mental Health Care Act 2017. It also gives the right to confidentiality. Anyone who shall be counseling you or who shall be treating you should not, must not share your details. You have the right to confidentiality. Anyone who does not obey that obviously falls under the ambit of punishment. They are liable to get punished. You are also uh, you have the right to take actions against them. Okay. There's also a right to a community living. You can choose any moment of time to get out of the treating shelters, obviously when the situation is right, and you may ask the state that you want to settle with any other people, you want to live like any other man. So you have a right to community living also. There are obviously other rights also, which, by the way, had already been enshrined in Article 21. It falls under the ambit of Article 21, like right to health. Right to health includes right to mental health. Under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, right to life. It has been highlighted in many precedents, okay, uh, in the Apex Court of India. Right to life also includes right to a dignified life as well. We are not cattles. It has been reiterated many times in the Apex Code of India that human lives are not like cattle. We have the right to live a dignified life. So all this comes into account, and also our obligation, because we are a signatory to the UN Convention, just as I told, of the UN Convention of Rights of People of Disabilities, like something like that. So we also need to comply to these norms also. So all this come into account. Now let's talk about uh, some Indian personal laws. Like previously, if a wife or a husband is suffering due to the fact that his or her spouse is mentally ill, Previously, it was not an issue, but right now, it is a ground of divorce. If I'm not wrong, divorce section 13 of the Indian Marriage Act, 1950 something, I have forgotten. Okay, so under section 13, clause, subclause something, section 13, clause, subclause something of the Indian Hindu Marriage Act, mental disorders are grounds to obtain divorce. Divorce, okay. Anyone can ask for a divorce if his or her spouse, if he feels that they are unfit enough to sustain a marital relationship. So these have been acknowledged. Also, someone may not, in fact, get into a marriage at all if it has been established that the bride or the bridegroom, okay, suffers from any mental disorders, specific mental disorders, to be honest. It has to be clarified, obviously, by a clinical expert, which uh, can be granted or which can be relaxed and which can't be relaxed. Like if I'm someone who is going through extreme mental conditions and I may kill someone if they are under my presence, in my vicinity, so that is not a right thing to do, right? That is not a favorable atmosphere to live with someone. And lastly, uh, if we have to speak about the compassionate side of the Indian laws and how its evolution is changing slowly. Previously, suicides uh, were a criminal offense. Someone who had committed a suicide, uh, it was a criminal offense previously, acknowledged under IPC. But right now, suicide or attempting to commit a suicide has been decriminalized. Has been decriminalized. Obviously, with the effect of Indian Mental Health Care Act 2017. So previously it was seen as a threat to the society, but right now the court of laws and the legislative bodies have shown a compassionate side of themselves. We are showing our evolution into a more human uh, nature. So right now, someone who had like the act of committing a suicide is right now can be called as someone who had gone through extreme level of stress. It is not a punishable offense. It is not a crime, and the state must, if any of the victims are alive, if any of the victims are stable, then the court, the state must ensure that they may be rehabilitated properly. They may get the proper care as much as possible. Talking about the duties of the state, it is also the DPSP as enshrined in the Indian Constitution. It is the duty of the state to protect the vulnerable societies, vulnerable groups of the Indian society. It not only includes the uh, socially, educationally backward classes, it not only includes ST, ST, OBC, minorities, it also includes people with vulnerable mental condition, someone with a mental disorder. They need care. And it is the state's duty to provide them with care. Okay. Some of these schemes like National Mental Healthcare Scheme, if I'm not wrong, it is available. It is a nationwide program to do the same thing in concentrated areas, in small areas. There is also a provision of scheme as the district mental health care scheme. There's telemanas as well. Someone who is not fit enough to get outside his or her home, he or she can get the benefit. If you think that you might do something, you might commit something, or you are not in a position to seek help, then there's telemanners for you. You can just call. You can just call, and it is available 24 into 7. You can just give a call, and help is ready for you. It is a right. It is mental health is a right of everyone. Mental health should be a duty of everyone. Mental health is a collective responsibility. It is our collective responsibility to create increased awareness, increased sensitivity, increased compassion for people who might be around us. Just think, every hour, one Indian student commits suicide. So it is not something which we want, right? The fact of the matter that UGC has also recognized it and have explicitly stated to create support, peer support groups in colleges, to create uh, grievance redressal cell in every colleges and educational institution. And obviously there's a section of pause as well. So it is a human rights thing. Um, we have abandoned electric shock, we have abandoned chaining people, we have abandoned calling people lunatics, but we still have a lot to go. We still have a more to go. Anyways, that is it. Article 21, DPSP, Indian contract, ground for divorce, Juvenile Justice Act, Disability Act. Yes, you can seek reservation only on the grounds of mental disorder also. Okay, menstria, elements of a mental crime. Uh, that's it. That's how much I knew about this topic, and I thought, why not share with you people? Thank you.